Welcome. So today we are continuing with factoring, solving by factoring. Remember, grab a notebook, grab a pencil, pen, so like that you're able to take notes. Pause your video when needed, and try to do the problems before you see the answer. So again, to review the steps, I added the first step just to make sure you don't skip that step. Make sure your quadratic equation needs to be set equal to 0. So that is one very important key. Make sure you set your equation equal to 0. And what we mean by that is we have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We have a, b, c. You're going to check for the greatest common factor first. If you have a greatest common factor, then you're going to end up dividing. And like that, you're going to end up with a different, either a trinomial or binomial. You're going to factor by using ABC method. And then the last thing is solve for x. Our end goal is to make sure that we solve for x. So that's very important, okay? And remember, x could end up having 2 different values or 3. So now, we have this example. We have 40x squared equals negative 16x. So the first step is for us to make sure that is set equal to 0. So in this case, it isn't. So what are we going to move? We're going to move the 16x to make it a positive 16x. And now we have 40x squared plus 16x. I cannot forget that the 16 has an x, is set equal to 0. Once we set it equal to 0, we know we have 2 terms. So even though we have 2 terms, we got to check, is there a common factor between 40 and 16? Both of them are divisible by 4. So we're going to divide both of them by 4, because that is their greatest common factor. And so 4 stays out in the front. 40x squared divided by 4. Oh, and it's also x. Can't forget the x. They also have that in common. So we got to make sure we divide by 4x. So 4x is in common. And so once we do that, we are left with 10x, because x squared divided by x is x. Just so you guys are able to see that. If I have an x, the exponent is a 1. And if I subtract the 2 and the 1, 2 minus 1, that just leaves me with x to the first power, or I could just write x. It's the same thing. So that's why we obtain 10x. And then 16x divided by 4x just leaves me with 4. That equals 0. So now we do still have two equations, because the first one, unlike the other cases that we had been doing from yesterday, we have a 4x. So there's a 4x, so I'm going to set 4x equal to 0. That's going to be the first equation. And the second equation is a 10x minus 4, set that equal to 0. If I solve for the first one, and we divide by 4, we're solving for x. 0 divided by 4 is 0. So x equals 0. So whenever you have a term and it's just x, doesn't matter what constant it is, it's always going to be x equals 0. And then when I have 10x minus 4, we're going to add 4 to both sides, and we are left with 10x equals positive 4. Divide by 10. So x equals 4/10. Or we can simplify 4/10 by dividing. I'm going to write it again. We can simplify 4/10 by dividing both of them by 2. Both of them are divisible by 2, so 4/10 becomes 2/5. So that is your second answer. 4/10, but we simplify it to 2/5. So your answer is x equals 0 and x equals 2/5 when we simplify 4/10. Next example we have 12x squared minus 42 is equal to 78x. Again, first step says to set it equal to 0. It's not. Which one are we going to move? The 78x by subtracting. Since it's positive, we're going to subtract minus 78x. Okay. So once we do that, we have 12x squared minus 78x. I'm going to put that term second because that is my b term. Remember, your b term is always with your x. Minus 42 equals 0. And now we have to end up, their greatest common factor between 12, 78, and 42 is that they're all divisible by, what are they divisible by? 6. They're all divisible by 6. Who are they all divisible by? They're all divisible by 6, so we're going to end up dividing everything by 6. Okay, so we leave 6 out in front. 12x squared divided by 6 is 2x squared. 78 divided by 6 is 13, so we have 13x. And then 42 divided by 6 is 7. And that is equal to 0. Move this back just a little bit. Now we're going to focus in what is inside the parentheses. Okay? And so we're going to end up doing A, B, C. So we identify A equals 2. B is negative 13. And C is negative 7. So we multiply 2 and negative 7. So we make our chart, multiply A times C, whose sum is B. So A is 2, B is negative 7, that equals negative 14. The sum of B must be 13. So the factors of 14 are 1 and 14, 2 and 7. But in our case, which one are we going to use to get the B value of negative 13? We're going to use 1 and 14. Okay. Which one is going to be negative? Well, if I want a negative 13, not a positive 13, if I want a negative 13, the 14 is the one going to have to be negative. So I'm going to put 1x, negative 14x. And in the other box, remember we have the first term, which is our 2x squared. And then our last term, which is negative 7. Now, going up, what do these terms have in common? 2x squared and negative 14x. Negative 14x, they both have 2x in common. 1 and negative 7, they just have 1. Now going to the side, what do 2x and 1x have in common? X. And negative 14x and negative 7, they both have a negative 7. So remember we had a 6. Can't forget the 6. We write the 6. We write 2x plus 1, x minus 7, set it equal to 0. We have 2x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 from both sides. Get 2x equals negative 1. And now we divide by 2. And x equals negative 1/2. So that's the first answer. What do we do to get the other answer? We get x minus 7 equals 0. So now we add 7 x equals positive 7. So those are our two solutions. X equals -1/2, x equals 7. Remember that was 1/2. Okay? So make sure, if you have any questions, send an email. Have a great day.